right, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about the MHS program and specifically why it's a good fit for those people who eventually want to go into med school. I'm Kari Debbink. I'm the Director of Graduate Studies in the Molecular Microbiology and Immunology Department here at Johns Hopkins. And we have a few guests that are going to speak today. Dr. Peter Agre is going to speak in a few minutes, and Al Scott is also going to speak. All right, so I'm going to start off by introducing our first speaker, Peter Agre. So Peter is a professor in both the School of Medicine and in MMI. He's a Bloomberg Distinguished Professor and notably is a Nobel Laureate. Peter has been here on and off at Hopkins since 1970, mostly on, but a little bit here and there as well. Peter's work has focused on the discovery of aquaporin water channels, and that was what he won his Nobel Prize in Chemistry for in 2003. And he's worked on those aquaporin water channels in terms of their role in malaria, and also in other aspects as well. He was the director of the Malaria Research Institute, and now he's here to talk to all of you about the department.
Hello to all the young scientists, young medical careers. It's always a challenge to speak to young scientists who are planning a career in medicine or biomedical research, because what worked for me might or might not work for you. But I think there's some observations I've made that could be helpful. Everyone knows how competitive it is to become a medical student. You have an intense undergraduate background, usually in the sciences or the science in combination with something else. And grades, board scores are very important. And it might seem onerous, but a career in practice of medicine or biomedical research is a precious thing to enter. And it's probably more frightening than it needs to be. I went to a small college in Minnesota. I was not an outstanding student in high school, but I spent the better part of an academic year after finishing college traveling in East Asia, Southeast Asia, visiting sites of medical research. Johns Hopkins had programs in cholera and other infectious disease programs. And I think that was viewed as an unusual feature. It would not be unusual today because many students follow such a path. But in 1970, it was not common. And I think that in part determined where I ended up in medical school. I was at Johns Hopkins. And I was probably viewed as a geographic affirmative action candidate. Johns Hopkins now has a graduating class of 120 medical students, and they have about 6,000 applicants. But of those applicants, many are from backgrounds which are indistinguishable. There were probably relatively few applicants from Minnesota, Johns Hopkins, and that was probably to my advantage. So I think if your efforts have taken you in new areas, interesting areas, that could be helpful. But I think that it's what you have in your heart that really counts. I was fairly committed to a career in medicine, but I wasn't aware of the beauties of biomedical research as a career. And as a medical student at Hopkins, though I spent time working in a lab, and it was a very exciting experience. I did another sort of different pathway when I finished medical school. I didn't apply for an internship to follow immediately. I had been working in a research laboratory on cholera, a horrible diarrheal disease, and it was going so well that I stayed on for a year as a postdoctoral fellow. And then when I applied for internships, there was much more interest because I had accomplished some basic research. But I think if you have special interests in your heart is really in it, it would be good to follow that pathway. Now, I have observed over the years that students at Hopkins do very well and go on to very good careers. But I think the secret ingredient is not the luster of the resumes of the faculty. It's more dependent on the enthusiasm of the other students. I certainly learned more from my classmates, and I followed the path that I did in part because of that. And I think it's also very important to make sure that you have some balance. Working hard is understood, but working efficiently is something that we can all probably be better at. In the end, there were a few people that stood out from the faculty that caused me to do research in diseases such as cholera and now malaria. And I pursued them in large part because of the enthusiasm that they had for the work. So I hope these comments are helpful.
Next up, we have Dr. Al Scott. Dr. Al Scott is a professor in the molecular microbiology and immunology department here at Johns Hopkins. He also did his PhD training here at Hopkins as well. He's been here for around 45 years. So he's been here also a long time, just like Dr. Agre. His research is on immunology and specifically the role of macrophages in lung diseases. He directs the department's PhD program. He's the vice chair of education at MMI, and importantly, he's won numerous teaching awards here at Hopkins for his immunology courses. And he notably sits on the admissions committee for our master's and PhD program, as well as the School of Medicine's MD PhD program. So he is a great person to ask about admissions in medical school and graduate school in general. So Dr. Scott.
That was a great introduction. So I've been sort of charged with sort of introducing the school, the Bloomberg School of Public Health, and the Department of Molecular Microbiology and Immunology, and provide an overview of the aspects of the MHC program and the general opportunities at JHU as it pertains to your goal in going to medical school. So first of all, let's start out with the Bloomberg School of Public Health. It was the first school of public health to be established in the United States over 100 years ago. And it's currently the largest school of public health. And we're consistently rated as as the top school of public health by any number of metrics. We have the distinction of being one of the handful of school of public health worldwide that carries out bench research within the context of public health. Other schools of public health are more biostatistics, epidemiology oriented. The Bloomberg School of Public Health is located on the biomedical campus of Johns Hopkins University, along with the Johns Hopkins Hospital, the School of Medicine, and the School of Nursing. And on this campus, we have about 5,000 full-time research faculty and about 15,000 graduate students and fellows. So it's a very dynamic environment on multiple different levels, and a very fertile place for you to train and think about what you're going to do next. So a little bit about MMI. The Bloomberg School of Public Health has 10 departments, and MMI is one of those 10 departments. We have also some historical distinctions. We were one of the charter members of the School of Public Health. So we've been here from the very beginning. We were the first department of immunology in the world. And we also have the distinction of having the first courses in viruses. Back then they were called filterable viruses. And also our faculty has made discoveries that include the pathogenesis of polio, the first isolation of RSV, the pathogenesis of measles infections, and a number of other really important seminal medical associated discoveries. Our faculty include a Nobel Laureate, as you just heard from Dr. Agre. Also, our faculty are in leadership positions across different associations. For instance, one is a vice president of the National Academy of Sciences. And there are other leadership positions that our faculty hold. And our faculty and students consistently publish in top journals such as Science, Nature, Cell, and such journals. The department is also the home of several institutes. of which you may have some interest. It is one of the largest accumulations of malaria researchers in the world, and they function under the umbrella of the Malaria Research Institute. Dr. Agre used to be the director of that institute, and he stepped down now, and Jane Carlton has now taken over. And this Malaria Research Institute does molecular level, cellular level, and population ecology-based research on malaria. Also within MMI is the multi-center AIDS cohort study. This is the longest running longitudinal study on HIV anywhere. It mostly focuses on men living with HIV. Also, the department is the home of the Johns Hopkins Center for Excellence in Influenza Research, the Center for Women's Health, and our newly established Lyme and tick-borne disease research and education institute that focuses in on Lyme disease, but other tick-borne diseases, other viral and other tick-borne diseases as well. So that's sort of a background of the school and the department where we sort of sit. I'd like to now just touch briefly on, if you join the program, the MHS program, what we've done is designed it to give you, to provide you with foundational knowledge in certain areas. And this is knowledge that can be applied at the medical school level and when you're a physician, but also if you eventually decide to go someplace else, again, this is foundational knowledge that's really important just in general. And so one of the linchpins of the academic program is instruction in immunology. So we instruct immunology at several different levels. At the fundamental level, we give you the principles of how the immune response functions and how these principles are translated into the clinical arena in the guise of immunization, vaccination, host pathogen interactions for infectious diseases, whether they be viruses, bacteria, fungi, or parasites. Also, we discuss autoimmune disease, cancer, and other areas. In fact, all of medicine is pertinent to control by the immune response. That we also have another focus on the biology, molecular biology, and pathogenesis of infectious diseases. So we offer you opportunities to do deep dives into understanding viruses and viral pathogenesis, bacterial diseases, diseases caused by major fungi groups, and also a spectrum of parasites, both single cell parasites and multicellular parasites. So you have opportunities to get instructed in those. Also, many of these diseases are transmitted through vectors, mosquitoes and other mostly blood-sucking insects. So we have a really strong component of vector biology and disease ecology that helps sort of put together the dynamics of these pathogens are over time and space. Most of this information is conveyed through the classroom. However, there are other opportunities to learn that's either classroom adjacent or in other venues. But I think it's notable to mention that a number of our faculty, a number of our teaching faculty are from the School of Medicine. And they are either PhD or MD, PhD scientists, and they are also parts of our training faculty. And they participate in this instruction. So this gives you an opportunity to interact with outstanding physician scientists and world-class experts in their field and get to know them personally. One of the reasons I mention that is one of the things that we will, if you join the program, that we will try to set you up in is for a strong letter of recommendation. So I read literally hundreds of applications, and one of the things that makes an application or an applicant stand out is a strong letter of recommendation from someone who knows them and knows what their the capabilities of the student are and the potential. And so the program will give you some instruction and guidance on how to approach people and establish those relationships that will be important for the generation of these strong letters that will help your application to your top choices in medical school. And so maybe sort of adjacent to that, something that's not necessarily inherent to our department, but inherent to how we sort of plug into the medical ecosystem here at Johns Hopkins, is that if you desire it, we can point you to areas where you can get some patient-oriented research experience or research and integrate into research projects. And taking advantage of these opportunities can extend your volunteer work and other interactions that you have with patients, because this is one of the basic metrics that admissions committee members look at to try to get a gauge on how committed you are to patient care, and to get some indication that you have empathy for the health and mental circumstances of patients. So people like the admissions committee people like to see that up front. And there are opportunities for you to expand out in that area if you have the time and the inclination. And last but not least, we are also interested in your professional development. And this includes training in effective writing and communication skills. And we give you not only sort of academic guidance there, but also practical applications in writing a thesis, presenting a thesis, having multiple opportunities through coursework to talk to others, get up in front of people and talk, so you can hone your skills on communication, which will help a lot once you get into the interview process. Most of our students come across very poised and confident, and that's part of the reason for that is this professional development that we impart during the MHS program. So those are the main things that I wanted to cover.
Thank you, Al. And again, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me via email. Happy to set up a time to answer any other additional questions, either via Zoom or via email.